Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this exciting presentation on the scientific breakthrough of athletic performance and rehab in the ever-growing world of BFR, blood flow resistance training. Many of you have heard of this or you've experienced it, but there's a lot of people on tonight that you're hearing about this for the first time. Well, let's bring on our next special guest. He's Mario Cruz. He's the head athletic trainer and physiotherapist. So he's responsible for not only rehabbing these guys, but conditioning these guys at the highest level of soccer, Atlanta United Soccer. Mario, excited to have you on. And I haven't had a chance yet to hear some of your stories, so I'm excited to hear
Good evening, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. Just wanted to touch on some of the reasons why we're working with the B bands, the B3 bands. And so we've been using BFR for quite some time now, and recently been using the B3 bands with great benefits. Kind of touching onto the reason why we started to use them, mostly because of the functionality. I think Rick and Chris mentioned how there are other types of BFRs that you have to have some calibration and have to have a higher degree of just have to be more careful when you use it. But the nice thing about the B3 bands is that you have the ability to calibrate them really easily, and they don't need to be plugged up to anything else, which gives it the level of functionality that we need. It's the example that Mike was just speaking about, is we can actually have our players reproduce the same type of movements that they will do on the field. So it brings a bigger level of functionality for us that allows the players to perform at that level. One of the other reasons why we like the bands is because of to me, is a perfect size and the quality of it. With some of the other products, the bands could be quite large or quite small. I think the B3 bands fit really well to the size of the players, and it gives them the ability to perform those functional movements without any issues. Sometimes based on the calibration with some of the other units, there is some increased pain while the exercise is going on. So soccer players are kind of interesting guys where they're not necessarily looking to get really large in size, because the heavier they are, the more they have to run. Soccer is an interesting sport in the sense that it is a combination of anaerobic and aerobic activities. That we have guys that have to perform for 90 minutes. And kind of mentioned to what Rick was saying, we, normally a normal MLS schedule calls for one game a week. So we play Saturday to Saturday, but now because of the current situation we're in, we're having to play usually Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, meaning, for instance, this coming month, we're playing 9 games in less than a month, which for those who know soccer, it's actually quite a bit, with the chances of injury increase almost 3 to 4 times higher anytime you play a midweek game. So we have to be really watchful for how much we do with the players. So that being said, how we use our bands, we kind of started using just a little bit of everything. We obviously, as Chris was saying, and Rick was saying, is coming back from a significant injury such as an ACL, where you have to increase muscle mass, but also when guys are just dealing with acute injury. So in the strengthening world, we see the importance of increasing that human growth hormone. But it's nice to be able to get these players, once again, soccer players are not really big into doing heavy lifting, to be able to get the benefit of the metabolic response that you get with BFR, meaning you get the ability to get those guys to work less and less intensity, but then still get the response that you want. And so it's a very traditional way to use strengthening with the guys. But another thing that I found it really helpful is when we do what I call modified strength or modified rehab. Once again, these are guys who, as Rick was saying, perhaps their joints are more wore out, they have some arthritic changes, and they don't normally do well with traditionally heavy lifting. Therefore, the use of the B3 bands allows us to still get into those responses that they need, but they work the joints a lot less. And therefore, there's less shearing forces and less axial forces, which then they get the benefit of being able to continue to compete without the added, stress of the activity. A couple of things that haven't been mentioned yet. In our sport, we tend to see a lot of kind of overuse type issues such as Achilles tendonitis or tendinosis, as well as patellofemoral pain syndrome. We find it that for those guys who are struggling with it, we do a quick session under the bands right before they go to training so that we can sort of bring that metabolic response, in a sense, kind of warm up the tissue under, really light stress. And we see a really good benefit of analgesic. So there's less pain as they perform in training and obviously before matches, as well as, it helps that inflammatory response, which once again, the body heals through blood flow. And so if we're able to increase blood flow and we're able to sort of kind of flush out that, cellular inflammation that you see in the tendinosis cases, you get the benefit. So you're able to load up the joints, especially patellar tendons, Achilles tendons, in our world. And so under a lot less stressful situations, even before training, which to me is a beautiful way to easily get the players on the gym doing that. The beauty of the B3 bands to me is that I'm able to calibrate them really quickly, and I can just demonstrate the exercise, and I'm able to take my eyes off of the player because I know they're safe, because I know what they're doing, as opposed to some of the other systems where they have to stay connected to the line. You have to manage the repetition. So to me, it cuts out on the time and it gives the benefit of the player to be able to compete. And for me, it's easier because I'm able to. Some of the other things that we use the bands for is as far as recovery. As we mentioned, when you play so many games back to back, our recovery is actually more important than the way we train, the way we perform. So when we play a game, the next day we call that match day +1. Recover for the next match. Those days, you'd want the players to actually be able to perform a bit of, heavy lifting, upper body, lower body, whatever you call it, so that you can get that response of the human growth hormone and the testosterone that you get to be able to recover. That is recovery in nature. So the guys are normally pretty tired 24 hours post-match. It's even worse 48 hours post-match as a match day +2. And so we're able to get the players to do an upper body lift that they will normally do, and to be able to get that response, they'll have to do heavier loads. But with the B3 bands, we're able to minimize how much we have to put the players through it, knowing that they're already tired, knowing that they already didn't sleep well. And so we're able to get that response the next day, where for us the next day, so 48 hours post-match, we're able to then reintroduce somewhat normal training. So for us, the recovery aspect is really important. And also goes for the aerobic response, where for us, days post-match, we would want the guys to do maybe a light jog or a cycle, some cycling to promote blood flow. And so we're being using the B3 bands to get the same response only under the restriction. And then that creates that metabolic cascade that we want for recovery. We've seen really good results with that. So I think the benefit of recovery under the bands for both aerobic and anaerobic purposes are great. And then lastly, some of the other benefits that I see with players who are struggling with some sort of joint effusions and inflammations. Once again, just performing one single bout of BFR, whether it's an open chain exercise or a closed chain exercise, you see the benefit of that joint effusion just essentially almost kind of going away just within the one session, as well as adding that analgesic effect where you see guys that are less painful after performing it. Then it gives us the opportunity to allow the players to train. So for us, it's been a game changer. We definitely have seen the results. And I've always been a guy where I let the players speak for themselves. And so I bring them to the idea of using the bands if they don't know what it is, if they don't really know what BFR are. And then I try to do a lot of education with them, and then kind of let them experience the recovery. So I'll take it case by case, and then they can feel for themselves how much better they feel post-match when they do the recovery. So we see less pain, we see better recovery, we see the ability to decrease the kind of overuse injuries that you see. So for us, it's been the difference has been that our players can tell the difference. And I mean, a good testament to it is that I've had a handful of guys requesting to buy their own units so that they can do their own training at home, as well as our units. We can loan it to the guys as they go home, and they can do their own recovery at home or their own lifts. So for us, those are experiences. So I'd like to thank Mike and everybody here for listening to our experiences. And I think that for us, it's been a really big change for us.